guys, welcome back to Room 237, and I'm continuing my marathon of Italian horror films and Giallos. This is not a Giallo, this is exploitation horror film, but it's one I'm finally glad I'm getting to because I'm ready to be done with this movie. Quick backstory, it's not that it's bad, but this is one of those movies, and it's happened several times, where by the time I finally get a chance to watch it, it's really, really late or very, very early in the morning, and I've been up, and I just keep dozing off and waking up to the main menu and restarting it, falling back asleep. So I must have seen probably the first half of this 5 or 6 times since, between last weekend and this weekend. But, finally finished it, finally getting around to talking to it. Now, I see a lot of videos on YouTube place this from 1978, but I'm pretty sure it's 79. And that's the Italian nunsploitation film, Killer Nun. Of course, this is the, almost as always, Blue Underground release. Directed by Giulio Berruti. I pronounced that correctly. Now, nunsploitation is not a exploitation subgenre that I'm super familiar with. The only other one that I've seen and reviewed would be Fulci's Demonia, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. I was hoping it was going to be better, and it was. I actually found this to be sort of a decent film after the first half. The first half, this movie does have pacing issues. Stars Anita Ekberg, who is a Swedish actress, appeared in a lot of things. I think around this time she was appearing more in exploitation films. I know she was in one Giallo, or this one Giallo I'm thinking of, but also stars Joe D'Alessandro, Lou Castel, Alina Valli, Massimo Serrato, and I believe Paola Mora is the other sister that plays a big role in this. But the Mother Superior character looked... I want to see if it's who I was thinking of. Yes. She was the short-haired dance instructor from Suspiria, the original Suspiria. So she plays the Mother Superior in this. And it does say in the very beginning the events of this film are based on true events. The story itself really isn't, but it's loosely based on or inspired by the case of Cecil Bombeek, who was a 43-year-old nun that killed 3 people at a geriatric hospital between 76 and 77. So, and in Belgium. So, story's very different, but that's sort of the basis for the story. And the story is set at this hospital for the elderly, this home for the elderly. Although they also kind of make it seem like a mental institution for the elderly. But there's these nuns that work and live there. And one of the head nurses, Sister Gertrude, because of course her name is Gertrude. In the beginning of the film, it's sort of like if Nurse Ratched was a nun. But basically her story is, before the film started, actually it kind of opens up with brain surgery. She had a cancerous tumor removed. And she starts to abuse opioids and heroin, and she is getting this increasing paranoia that her health is declining again, but the paranoia is also manifesting itself in the fact that she believes she's committing these murders across the hospital. But it's also making her do some other poor behavior, bad behavior. She does lead a secret life where she leaves the church and she seeks out random sexual attention from random men just out in public. The performance did remind me a bit of Louise Fletcher as Nurse Ratched, because there are times where she is very pleasant to the patients, and then other times, she can just get this look across her face, and you can tell she's having bad thoughts. But there's this other sister whom she rooms with at the hospital, Sister Matthew, if that was her name. She sleeps in the nude. She has this supposedly quiet sexual attraction and love for Gertrude. This undying loyalty to help protect her. 'Cause she's not sure if these murders are being perpetrated by her or if someone's trying to frame her. And that's sort of what the movie is. It does have a twist. It does kind of play out like a Giallo. It's not, but I will say it looks decent. I mean, as sometimes it does kind of look almost like a TV movie, kind of like Demonia. But I will say I enjoyed this more than Demonia. Very early in the film, she kind of starts off snapping at patients. There's this very elderly woman who has her teeth in water on the dinner table while she's reading stories from the Bible to everyone. And she takes the woman's teeth and says, "Told you not to do this, it's disgusting." Throws the dentures on the ground and stomps on them till they're shattered. And then she breaks down when she realizes what she's done. But what makes the scene effective is the elderly woman's performance. Like, she is scared, crying, shocked, attacked. It's a scene that works. But of course, the elderly woman had a poor heart. She suffered a heart attack. She dies. Gertrude takes one of her rings, tells the other sister it was her mother's that was given to her, and then this is when she leaves the church for a day or a weekend, pawns it, buys drugs, does this sort of a beckoning to a guy in a bar. They have sex in a hallway. So, yeah, kind of morally corrupt. Also, there's a scene where she's supposed to change this IV bag for a patient, and she unhooks it, and the patient starts, like, gasping and showing that she's being affected, and Gertrude just kind of watches her until the other doctors realize what's going on. And she starts to be looked at, and then she gets, that doctor fired. Then this other younger doctor comes in. And basically, more and more murders happen. And it is kind of stylish. It is kind of hard to tell what's going on sometimes. Because, like, when there's a murder, it will show as if she's doing it, and it will quick cut to her just, like, sitting there in a catatonic state to the victim, and it's all these sort of quick cuts. Like, the first death is this elderly patient who's actually Sister Matthew's grandfather. He's bludgeoned with a lamp, and then his body is thrown out of a window to look like suicide. And all the other patients sort of seem to think it's Gertrude because of her past behavior. And again, she thinks it's her brain declining in health again, or if it's this drug-induced psychosis. She has dreams and visions that she can't decipher if they're real or not. I do like Ekberg's performance as Gertrude. The music was... Cause I did like the music, too. It does have some sort of... I don't know if I want to say Gregorian chants, but it does have some, church chants. But the actual score... Alessandroni, he did the score, and especially for like the main menu and what's used for the sort of end music, I really like that. I'm gonna get into spoilers because there is a twist. This also was a video nasty. It's not super bloody. I mean, we get the opening scene with the brain surgery. A couple deaths, like, the bludgeoning with the lamp. There's some blood. There is one death that involves needles and a scalpel that is pretty well done, but it's not too bloody. It's basically just a lot of sex scenes. There's a lot of nudity. It's definitely an exploitation film. If you're an exploitation fan, then it's worth a watch. It does look good. Some parts are kind of dry and slow, but it does have some stylish cuts and edits, especially the last shot of the film. I thought was kind of Argento. It reminded me of both Argento and Lynch, kind of like this. I like the way the final shot was done. But, I mean, it's probably not going to be for everybody. I thought it was watchable. I mean, it's not what I'll probably seek out again, but, I liked Ekberg's performance. I did like the music. The story, it definitely picks up more in the second half. But, with that, I'm going to get into spoilers. The hospital knows that there's been enough murders now that it's not just one or a couple suicides. So they start looking around, and the nuns and the patients are going to play this game called the Truth Game, where they ask the nun any question she has to be honest. And this one asks her why she killed that one patient, the grandfather. And everyone kind of looks at her like they know she did it, but that could also just be her paranoia. And the other sister keeps defending her, and because she found her cap, her nun's cap, at the scene of her grandfather, and she decided to help cover it up for her. She also steals morphine for her. But throughout the movie, her psychosis gets worse. At one point, Gertrude is attacked. It is kind of cheesy. I mean, she's running through the halls, looks kind of cheesy. And then just like she's hit the head with something, but just looks like then like fast cut to her on the floor. When all the patients are being questioned, this one elderly woman looks at this other woman named Janet saying, "You said you saw something, say something." And she says no, but then that night that woman is killed. She's, bound, tape on the mouth, and she gets these needles or lancets stuck into her cheek, her eyelid, different places on her face. She gets her head, mouth, like where the tape is, or throat slashed. Gertrude finds her hanging upside down way above an elevator shaft, which I like that overhead shot with the blood dripping on her. I thought that was well done, especially with the music over it. And eventually everyone just starts looking at Gertrude, and they're pretty sure it's her. She's sent away from the hospital. The Mother Superior knows it's her, puts her... She's at this other hospital. She's put in isolation cell. Oh, because also the guy that asked the question during the truth game, he's on crutches. He was left down in the boiler room. Gertrude took his crutches away and says, when you tell me who it was that made you ask you that question, I'll give you your crutches back. So we get this long scene of him trying to crawl up the stairs with her digging through all her stuff, and she finds, more drugs, either morphine or heroin, just a vial. I'm guessing it's morphine because those are the same vial as the other ones. And she fills up like 2 vials and just shoots it up. And then the other sister calls someone and says, or someone calls her, say they found the body of the guy on crutches. Because he makes it up to the top, and then we see someone take his crutches away. They kick him in the head down the stairs. Again, it's kind of choppy. But the way it's shot really makes you think Gertrude is responsible, and the drug is what calms her, but when she's calm, that's when she goes to kill. Because she's panicky, shoots up, and then just it comes over her. She looks sinister. That's when the guy with the crutches gets kicked down the stairs and dies. But when the other sister's on the phone about Gertrude being taken away, she's like catatonic on the floor. It looks like she's got like the full, like she overdosed. One of the cheesier deaths is after the truth game, there's this torrential rainstorm, and she sees this elderly patient in a wheelchair having sex with an orderly. And so then we see him out in the rain getting cotton stuffed down his throat till he suffocates. And then he's found. This is when the investigation picks up more. So while she's detoxing in the isolation room, she's completely catatonic and shut down. The other sister reveals to the new young doctor that she's been stealing sedatives for Gertrude. She seduces him into secrecy, threatens suicide if Gertrude is exposed. But then we see that as Gertrude is detoxing and she starts clearing up, through this fit of rage, everything comes back to her. And we see that the reason why it was cut so much between her looking like she's killing the victim, shots of the victim, and shots of her just kind of sitting there almost like she's in 2 different places. It's because every time there was a death, a murder, she was in a drug-induced state, and the actual killer was the other sister. And I have heard some people in videos complain about her teeth, like she's got spots all over her teeth. Just something to mention. And it all started with the death of that sister's grandfather. She saw it happen through a drug-induced state of catatonia. She saw the other sister bludgeon her own grandfather with a lamp. And we find out it was because she suffered sexual abuse as a child from her grandfather. Thus, her loyalty to Gertrude and him being murdered. And the way the last shot ends, I like how she kind of, she has this sort of fit of rage, her cap's messed up, and she just kind of slumps down in the corner, and that's when she realizes that's what happened. She was here, The murder was here. Her memory was just messed up, along with her paranoia, hypochondria, and everything else. The final shot is the other sister at this confessional booth, confessing why she has to kill her grandfather because of the sexual abuse. But the camera, I really like this shot, pans over, the booth is empty, and then it pans out to look like it's just the sister, the empty booth, a light, and just blackness all around her. Almost like a stage production. Like it's just inside her own head. Like now she's, in her own way, is psychotic and sort of gone mad. And it just had this nice Argento, Lynchian look and feel to it, just with the way the room is normal, but then when we pan over to the empty booth and then pan out, how it's just darkness and blackness, all except for this one light above them. Just sort of atmospheric as well. I really like that final shot. So yeah, kind of a character study, kind of a psychological horror film as well. Definitely exploitation, nunsploitation. It's not one of my favorite Italian films. I mean, it is shot well, the music is good, the performances are fine, especially by Ekberg. But a lot of parts do drag. It does have pacing issues. But even through all that, there is enough to see what to want to see what happens with her and where the story is going. So, yeah. I've been wanting to do this for a while now, just so I can stop going back and rewatching it. And so, yeah. Another Video Nasty, another Italian film. Again, I do think there is an Arrow or 88 Films release of this, but of course I just got Blue Underground because I always do. But that is Killer Nun. I probably could have seen the twist coming that it wasn't Gertrude, it was the other sister. I didn't mind the twist. Ekberg does do a good job at being pleasant when she has to, but having this very sinister, evil look to her. Almost to the point of being sympathetic at sometimes. But, so yeah, 1979's Killer Nun. I say a much better nunsploitation film than Demonia. Not sure how many more nunsploitation films I'll be doing, but I thought it was okay. Definitely not a rant. But anyway, stay tuned for more. I'm not sure when I'll have time to do more. I'll do what I can. Tomorrow is 4th of July. Hopefully I'll have some time tomorrow. But in case I don't, I hope you all have a great 4th of July. Thank you for watching this, and stay tuned for more Italian horror and Giallo films. Thank you for watching.